President Biden officially ushering in the end of the Trump era of American isolationism and reasserting U.S. leadership on the world stage.
He follows a president who was openly aligned with Vladimir Putin. Putin helped him get elected. Trump then advanced Russian objectives as president. He stuck a finger in the eye of NATO allies.
Yeah, I do think that, he's, again, in many ways, the un-Trump. And this is another example. Remember, Trump famously said, I don't need to prepare for summits. I'll just show up. I think he said that before his first meeting with Kim Jong-un.
He's really trying to turn the page or even maybe write a new book from the Trump years and how the United States relates to its allies in the region there. And also, I think, the moment we're going to see of contrast.
For all of us, I think the bar is a little bit low because the past 4 years have not produced successful or productive G7 meetings, NATO summits, and so on. And a lot of that is because of a lack of American leadership over the last 4 years, right? President Trump didn't value reinforcing our alliances. He didn't see the enormous benefit we derive from that. And certainly not democratic values. The first trip that President Trump took former President Trump was to Saudi Arabia, not to the UK and Belgium for these types of summits.
And trying to turn a page and really being in this position of having to explain for the last 4 years.
Projection of American power in the rest of the world, a sort of unwinding of that by Biden, then a complete unwinding by Trump, and now Biden, who represents a real return to an older way of doing business in Europe. And I don't know.
Everyone has PTSD from the 2018 Helsinki summit. That was a diplomatic disaster.
First and foremost with corruption. That's something that we heard throughout the investigation during President Trump's era.
The White House is determined to avoid the kind of embarrassing spectacle we witnessed back in 2018 in Helsinki when then President Trump took the stage with Putin.
To note, there will be no joint press conference after these meetings, and that's primarily because, again, they want to avoid the kind of spectacle that we saw with President Donald Trump and President Putin in Helsinki in 2018.
And they say this summit will be nothing, repeat, nothing like the 2018 spectacle when Putin met then President Trump in Helsinki.
President Trump's chief Russia advisor in the National Security Council said she wanted to fake a medical emergency. At the last meeting between Trump and Putin, it was so bad. It was so humiliating. So that's one bar for this meeting today. But is it the only bar for success? What are you looking for?
Well, you definitely will avoid this kind of kowtowing to Putin that you saw under Trump, which was unprecedented for an American president. So that's a win right there. But
because, look, unlike any past president, Republican or Democrat, under President Trump, America was getting rolled by Russia. It was the appearance when you saw these events.
President Biden, in his first phone call with President Putin, brought up things that President Trump never wanted to broach with Putin, right? And so as we were discussing, at one point, President Trump took the notes of an interpreter after he met with President Putin and told that interpreter not to discuss the meeting.
In a way that Biden's predecessor deliberately did not. Right? I mean, he often raised questions about whether the NATO alliance really mattered, and maybe Russia belongs in Ukraine, and maybe they didn't attack our elections, right? I mean, that was the previous president. So to have a
Obviously, Putin is dealing with a very different person than he dealt with in the last president, Phil.
You know, one thing that will not happen in this summit that happened when former President Trump met Putin is tearing up the notes after the meeting, right? You had moments like that were extremely unusual under the prior president.
Obviously letting it be known that there is a new American president here who is not going to participate in some of the public spectacle that Vladimir Putin was able to enlist Donald Trump into over the last 4 years.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge because, President Biden, he was then former Vice President Biden, was as horrified as were most Democrats and, frankly, most Republicans when they watched that now infamous Helsinki summit with Presidents Trump and Putin.